over those quick steps for receiving medication. So step number one is verify content. They hand you that bag of medications. You need to look and make sure that what's on the paper is what's in the bag. Usually that's the case, but if it's not, make sure you contact the pharmacy right away. Because it's so easy for something like that to slip through the cracks, and then we're gonna have problems on other people's shifts because you didn't do follow through with contacting the pharmacy right away, okay? So step one, confirm content. Step two, check the paperwork to the MAR. Make sure everything matches. Step three, you're going to add the medication that you accepted to the med and supply contact form, which is at the back of the MARS. You're going to make sure you add it to this. Either you're going to look on the list and find it and hit that it was received and write the date you received it, because somebody ordered it if it was a refill. So put the date it came, or if it's a new medication or you don't find it on here, then just make a whole new entry for it and write the date that it arrived. Okay, names of the medications. Okay, so then step four, you're gonna file the orders. If it's a refill, check and make sure that the medication is listed in the doctor's orders. If it is, you can throw the paperwork away. If the medication is not in the doctor's orders because it's a new medication, then you're going to file those papers under the doctor's orders so that we have our hard copy, plus we have our MAR entry that you made. You want to make sure you file it in the residence binder in doctor's orders. And then step number five is you need to give the medication. If the medication is an antibiotic, if it's a PRN and the resident is having symptoms for it, then you need to give it. If not, if it's scheduled, then you're just going to make sure you draw the arrows on your MAR showing the date that the medication needs to be given. Arrow to the 5th or the arrow to the 10th or whatever day it is that it needs to start. All right, well, those are your 5 quick steps. So hopefully those help you. Say you're on shift and you get one of these. The pharmacy shows up at the front door and they have a package. You have to sign for it. So the first thing you're going to do after you close the door, after you've signed and closed the door, is you're going to read this paper. It's going to tell you Resident A, and it's going to tell you what's inside the bag. This says Mucinex and Prednisone, okay, for Resident A is in this bag. Okay, so now you're going to open up the bag and verify that that's actually what's inside. Okay, so you're going to pull out the contents. You're going to look at the medications and you're going to see, okay, Resident A, Mucinex, Resident A, Prednisone, okay? So now you know you have exactly what's in the contents. If this did not match that, then you would call the pharmacy and let them know. The 3 things that you need during this process are A, your MAR, okay? B, the communication binder, and C, your residence binder, okay? So Resident A's binder is right here. You're gonna check the MAR, okay? You're gonna see, is this a new medication or is this a continuation? Let's pretend it's on the MARs. Okay, I'm gonna walk you through what to do. Okay, it's on the MAR. Let me put my medications in the bin. I'm gonna go to the log, the medication supply log, and I'm gonna look for who ordered this medication. Okay. All right, so let's say Jeanette ordered this medication. Okay, so I am going to put right under this line here, received, date received. What date did this supply or medication get here? And I'm going to put today's date in the entry because it arrived today. That's there, and then I'm going to go to my communication log, and I'm gonna make sure that I note for my shift that medication arrived for Resident A, okay? placed in box, or you don't even need to say that. Everybody's going to kind of assume that's where you put it. So you're just going to say, you know, medication arrived for resident A, okay? And then, like I said, you document on here what those medications that were ordered, that they arrived. Now, again, that was all the steps you need to do for a medication that is just a refill. Now we're gonna walk through the steps for what this really is, which is new meds, okay? So you're gonna verify the contents like we talked about. 2, you're gonna check the paperwork on the MAR. Okay, these meds are not listed on the MAR. So that means you need to add them to the MAR. You're going to look at your doctor's orders. You're going to get a MAR sheet. Now this, you may need a new one if all the entries are full, or you may have some empty spaces that you can just add to the current MARs. But let's say it's full, so you're gonna pull out a new sheet. You're gonna make sure you put at the top of the sheet, Resident A. Okay, you need to have the name on the form. Then you're gonna put the month and the year. Do you see that? Right on that line here. Okay, so I don't have it here because of privacy purposes, but I would just write Resident A right across the top here. Now, you have to add the medications. So you're going to look at your doctor's orders, okay? You can see Resident A has been ordered to take Mucinex 600 milligrams. So you're gonna add the medication and the dosage of the medication to the MAR, okay? Next, you're gonna write the instruction in the entry. So, Mucinex 600 milligram tab, that's what my top entry says. Then I'm gonna follow the instruction on the doctor's order exactly. Take 1 tab PO, which means by mouth, you should know that. Q 12 hours. Q means every 12 hours. Okay, so it doesn't say Q 12 hours PRN, it says Q 12 hours, period. So that means it is scheduled. It is not an as-needed medication, it is scheduled. Meaning that she does not have to display symptoms for us to give it. So you're going to, now it says every 12 hours, but it doesn't give you times. So that means that you just choose a time. Typically you would pick morning and nighttime, you know, but you have to space it 12 hours. So 8 a.m., 8 p.m., 9 a.m., 9 p.m., you know, that kind of a thing. You're going to add that to your MAR, and then you're going to do the next one. Now, this one's a little bit trickier, so I want to make sure I go over it with you guys. Now, this one states, prednisone 20 milligrams, 2 orally per day for 7 days. Then it changes, okay? So then after 7 days, you're going to do 1 orally per day for another 7 days. Okay, so this is stair-stepping, and stair-stepping often happens when you have a medication that you have to wean someone off of. They can't abruptly stop the medication because it could have really negative effects. So you want to stair-step them, you know, and wean them down on the dosage to stop the medication to make it an easier transition for the resident. So anyways, you're going to make sure that you make the entry that way. That can be that can sound kind of intimidating on how to fill out the entry. So let me show you. To make sure people take note to the change in the dosage, instead of just breezing over things really quickly and not noticing that they should have stair-stepped down to 1, I write the instruction here, and then right here you see I have a 2, and then the time starts. You count 7 squares, and then it stops. So now they have to go down to the next entry where it says 1, and then they begin the 1 tab for the 7 days, and then they stop. So this should really help guide them on when they come in what dose they should be giving, okay? So after you fill out your MAR entry, make sure that you highlight the times. We have a color code system. Morning is pink, noon is orange, dinner time is green, and then bedtime is blue. Okay, so you can see here, pink and blue, 12 hours apart, morning and nighttime. So after that, when you have these types of medications that are a little bit more complicated instruction, I typically highlight where the signatures should be. I draw arrows showing when it should start, when it should stop. This really helps people to pay closer attention and to not mess things up. So highlight, draw arrows. On the Mucinex, since it's a new medication, you're going to want to draw an arrow just like we did on this one. So today's the 4th, so this will begin in the morning. So you would draw an arrow to the 5th at 5 a.m. and do the same thing in the PM slot. Draw an arrow to the 5th so that they can begin it on that day. And that way it's clear to everyone when this medication began. So after you finish your entry, you need to make sure you sign at the bottom, and all the other staff will sign when they work. And then you are done with your MAR entry. Now, you're going to put that back in under the Resident A's tabs. Always hole punch. Okay, you're going to add it to your MARs and always put new medications in the very front. Okay, so you've got your vital sheet, you have your BM chart. Next is going to be the new meds. If you filled it out on a form that's already in here, but maybe it had some blank entries, so you decided to use that, that's okay, but move that form to the very front, so it is the first thing people see. In the back, it's very possible that a person will go through and sign, and once they get to the PRNs, they stop flipping pages, because if they didn't give any PRNs, there's no need for them to go through those pages. So you always just put any new or changed medications right on the very front, so there's no way someone accidentally misses it. Okay? So now you are done with this one, okay? Now, with new medications, okay? These orders that came with it, you have one for Mucinex, one for prednisone, okay? You're gonna hole punch these, and you're going to put them in the resident's binder, okay? Resident A's binder. Go to the tab that says doctor's orders, okay? Whenever you're dealing with medications, the paperwork always goes to doctor's orders. We're going to take these, file them under doctor's orders, and now we are done with the resident's binder. So resident binders complete. Next, if it's a new medication, you always want to make sure. Now, obviously, staff is not going to call the pharmacy and order a new medication, because we can't legally do that. Only a doctor can order new medications for a resident. So there would not be an entry in here for a new med, because no one ordered it. So once you have that done, then you're going to put that paper back in the MAR, because that goes at the back of the MAR book. Okay, then next is the communication book, okay? So you are going to fill out your communication log form, okay? And then you are going, there's a spot right down here that requests what med changes occurred, okay? So you are going to put that here. You are going to put new medications for the resident, and then down here for important things, important notes about your shift. That's where, if it's just a refill, then you just write medication medication delivery for so-and-so. If it is a new medication, then you are going to inform them that, you know, the new medication arrived for resident A, and added, okay? So make sure that you note that you put it in the MARS, because if you don't get to that step, you need to give it to the next shift. Say the medication arrived 15 minutes before your shift was over. You do not have time to add the medication, then it is your responsibility to make sure the next shift does do it. So you are responsible to hand them the medications, you're responsible to let them know what it's for, what it's about, update them on it, and then make sure you let them know, I did not put it in the MARS, so please do that tonight. And if it's a medication that needs to get started right away, like an antibiotic, okay, antibiotics need to be started as soon as the medication arrives. Under all circumstances, you always give an antibiotic. If it's a PRN medication that's new for the resident, it would depend on what the circumstances are. Let's say it's a pain med. If the resident is having pain issues, that could be why the doctor ordered those medications, so that needs to be given right away. Now, if it's a scheduled medication, say it's let's say it's a supplement. Let's say it's a cranberry pill, okay? That you don't have to rush to give them. That can just be started at the time that it's designated for. Say it's 8 a.m. and say you received it at 5 p.m. then that one does not need to be started until the next day. But you still have to make sure that you do the MARS. So okay, whoever is working when the medication arrives is the person who is responsible for the medication and all the steps that need to be done. If you trust the person who's following you, which hopefully you do, then you can let them know, I don't have time to do this, it just got here, so can you please do this tonight? You can do that, okay? But ultimately, it's gonna fall on you if that person doesn't, because if it's a new medication that just got here, you can do shift change and then stay and complete the task. Okay, if you're the one who's in a rush to get out of here, then that will be on you if the next person doesn't take care of it because they didn't get it on their shift. You got it. You're responsible for everything that happens on your shift, including med arrivals. You need to make sure it gets put in the book, you need to make sure that the MARS are done, and you need to make sure the paperwork gets filed where it's supposed to go and the medication is started if that is needed. Okay? It's really important. Like I said, medications are the most important part of what we do, okay? Because medications are what all of our training is surrounded around, okay? So make sure that you are giving those as soon as they get here, and make sure that you are taking care of all your paperwork. So, you're gonna take your comm note, it should be in, you know, in the book, in the spot that it belongs, and then once you have those 3 binders done, okay, once you have those 3 binders done and you have your, you know, the MAR has 2 forms you do. It has the MARS and then it has the medication and supply form. Both those need to be filled out. If it's new, you need to file in the resident binder. If it's refills, you don't. And then either way, new or refills, you need to document it in the comm book. Okay? So that is everything. If there's something going on with what you're doing that you actually don't know what to do, like I didn't cover it in this convo, then you can go ahead and call me or talk to one of the other staff and find out how to handle that situation. But most of the times it shouldn't be something that's too complicated. Everything we just talked about should cover pretty much any type of medication, whether it's family or pharmacy that brings it here. All those steps would need to be followed. Okay? All right. Thanks for listening. Bye. That's number 4. Okay, number 5, if it's a new medication like an antibiotic, you need to start it right away. You need to dispense the medication to the resident. That's if it's an antibiotic, if it's something that we are aware has to be implemented immediately. If it's the resident's been having pain and we've informed the doctor, so the doctor's sending a pain med or an ibuprofen for them to have PRN. If the resident's in pain, administer the medication, okay? So that would be number 5. That's the last step. Administer the medication if it's required. If maybe it's not a new medication, maybe you see, oh, okay, this medication is already on the MAR. You still need to verify, did the dosage change? Is it still 600 milligram, or maybe it got lowered to a 400 milligram? You need to look and see. Then you also need to see, well, maybe the frequency changed. Maybe it was 3 times a day and now it's only once a day. Maybe the time changed. Maybe it went from being an 8 a.m. medication to a 8 p.m. medication. Maybe the resident was getting drowsy from the medication, so the doctor changed it to a bedtime pill instead of a daytime pill. You need to look at the details to make sure that there aren't changes if it's an existing medication. If there are no changes to anything, then you're done. All you did was get a refill on a medication, and there's no paperwork that's required other than filling out that you received the medication, and then writing in the comm book that medication came on your shift. Okay? So this and this are all you have to do if it's just a refill and you've checked and there are no changes. So super easy on refill. New medication or a changed medication, well, then you're going to have more work. Changed medication is to be treated like it's a new medication for the most part. You're going to DC the old entry, and you're going to use a yellow highlighter to highlight that entry. That's pretty much universal for discontinued. The yellow highlighter is only to be used for discontinued medications. Do not use a yellow highlighter for scheduled medications, okay? Don't highlight like 8 a.m. With yellow, okay? Follow the color coding system, but you need to make sure that the yellow marker is used when you DC a medication. That makes it clear to everyone and they can't miss it. That way they don't keep giving it. But you need to watch for those changes. You DC the old entry, you begin a new entry with the new instruction, okay? And then the other thing you're gonna do is you wanna make sure that if there's a medication change, so say this medication is 1 tab at noon, well, maybe the doctor decided that they wanted this to be given twice a day. Well, now you're gonna take one of those black Mr. Clean magic eraser pads, you're gonna clean this off, and then you are going to put the new instruction. So it would be, just put like BID or TID or HS, whatever the change is, you're gonna relabel the top of that lid so that it's not confusing people on which instruction to go with. The instruction should always be what's in the MAR, should be trump anything else, but it just avoids any types of mistakes or errors happening. So make sure you update this lid. If you run into complications during the process of accepting the medications or doing the paperwork, for instance, say doctor's orders didn't come in the paperwork, but it's a new medication, you can contact me if you're not sure what to do in certain circumstances, or you can leave notes, or you can leave notes letting the next day staff know what to follow up with. You could leave a note saying, in the comm log stating, doctor's orders never came with medications. Please contact pharmacy and request they fax over the doctor's orders. Corey will be following up with pharmacy. Check with her on status of doctor's orders. Whatever, you know what I mean? You're just gonna make sure you're communicating what's happening. due to the hiccup in the process. You know, if we don't have doctor's orders, maybe we got an order for medications, new orders that came over by fax, but maybe the family hasn't brought the medications. So it's been added to the MAR, but we don't have the meds. You need to communicate, and you need to make sure somebody else knows and follows up with it. Don't just leave it and you're not going to be back for 3 or 4 days and nobody knows that this is happening. You have to communicate everything. And you have to leave details, because people have to be able to know what's going on and know what the problem is to be able to solve it. So it's your responsibility to communicate all of that for our residents. So make sure you're communicating everything to the next shift or me, or both. Both is ideal, okay?